Good morning, everyone. The day has finally come that we're going to talk about costs. And I know I mentioned previously that I would get into this, and you guys have asked for it. So today's the day. We're going to do the whole cost breakdown of what went into me building my dream hangar and shop here on my property. Now, as a rough recap for anyone that did not follow along, I built this myself from a steel building kit. The overall size of the building is 74 by 50. However, the interior portion is actually 62 by 50 because I added this extended eave that I wanted for shaded parking on the side. But before I get into the actual numbers here, I just want to preface it by saying this cost a lot more than I expected or wanted it to cost. And when we originally quoted it years ago, it was a lot cheaper, although it was still outside of our price range, which is why we went back to saving, then re-quoted, and that had gone up. And basically it turned into this cat and mouse game of us saving while costs were going up, and we were just chasing this ever elusive price point. And, you know, at some point we had to pull the trigger. I'm sure you guys are all very aware of how expensive everything's gotten with inflation and everything across the board. I mean, heck, even food has gotten super expensive, especially if you want something that is good for you. Luckily though, it doesn't have to be that way thanks to the sponsor of this video, Soylent. Soylent is a complete nutrition brand with a science-based take on health and wellness. We all know what nutrients we need, but healthy, balanced meals are often too expensive or take too much time and effort to make. That's why Soylent is calling their product the world's most perfect food. What makes it perfect? Well, they hacked food. Soylent did all the research, clinical trials, and formulations rooted in science, so you don't have to. Soylent is named after both a 1966 novel called Make Room, and later the 1973 film Soylent Green. And while the food in the book is made from soy and lentils, hence the name, the food in the movie is made from humans. But don't worry, Soylent isn't made from people, just plants. What I love about Soylent, aside from its great taste, is that it's affordable. Their products range in price from about $2 to $4 per serving because their mission is to make complete sustainable nutrition accessible, appealing, and affordable to all. Also, it's super convenient. Just grab and go. No prep, no refrigeration needed, and it's shelf stable for over a year. You can enjoy it anytime, anywhere, without prep or cleanup. So, the first 500 people to use this link and code Trent30 will get 30% off their first subscription with Soylent. Thank you again, Soylent, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get into the price breakdown. Okay, the first cost before we even started construction were permit fees with Washoe County, which is here where I'm located. Permit fees were $2,724.95. Now, the next thing was rough grading. Luckily, I own a skid steer, so I was able to do all the rough grading myself. I'm saying I probably spent $200 in diesel for grading. Now, after I had the rough grade set, I had to come in with a bunch of base rock to lift and compact before we got into doing concrete. And overall base rock cost me $4,140. Now, it is currently 38 degrees out, freezing cold, and while I have yet to actually set the hangar up for heating, I did prepare for it. So before we did concrete, I laid down under slab insulation as well as PEX tubing throughout, and that portion cost me $7,093.85. Now, concrete for the entire envelope of the building being a slab, which is 3,700 square feet, as well as the footings and all the form boards and everything that went into it, it ended up costing me $44,500. Now, by far the most expensive single item from the build was the building itself, which I got from R&M Steel as a steel building kit. That means it came with the frame, all the bolts, all the hardware, the siding, insulation, all the stamp drawings, everything. And before I tell you the price, I should mention that I tweaked a lot of stuff on this building that added to the cost significantly. You could do it a lot cheaper if you stuck with a standard roof pitch, a gabled roof, and putting the hangar door on an end wall instead of a side wall like I did here. There was a bunch of extra framing involved and a jack beam across the door to hold that, which added to the price. But all said and done for the steel building, $114,334. Now, this beautiful wide span bifold hangar door by Diamond Doors that measures 45 feet wide by 15-foot opening with the insulation package, all the smart operating stuff as far as having the garage key fob, the auto latching door, All of that costs $18,217.50. Now, it's important for me to note, Diamond Doors did work with me on this project, so I didn't pay full price for that, but that is what it would cost. Windows. I've got 5 windows in the building as well as 2 in the hangar door, and the windows cost $5,614. The garage door. It's an all glass with anodized aluminum, double pane insulated garage door with all the mechanicals and accessories cost $8,902. Electrical. I got a 200 amp service going to the hangar. I pretty much did most of the wiring myself. I'll say 95% I did myself with MC, metal clad wiring, all of that. And for the electric material costs, it was $4,514. The super cool looking hexagon lights, which I got off Alibaba direct from the manufacturer in China, those cost me $2,495. These shiny polished concrete floors, which I did as a DIY project with a friend of mine helping out, ended up costing, with equipment rentals, materials, and a little bit for my friend's time, $8,700. See that roof up there? It's about 20 feet up. Putting those soffit panels in was no joke, and to do it, I needed the right equipment. So for equipment rental throughout the entire process of the build was $7,926. Now this big, beautiful asphalt apron in front of the hangar, which allows me to not only start up, do my run up, but also take off without blasting dust and rocks all over the hangar, cost $20,000. Now, while I did as much of this myself as I could, I did have to hire help for some of it. So for labor over the entire 3-month course of the build was $24,390. Now, for the last 3 things, the first being a porta potty, which was required to be on site while you have an open building permit going on, was $1,500 for the course of construction. I had a general liability construction policy I pulled out, which was $1,007. And the final thing I had in for miscellaneous tools and hardware for $1,200, which all of that adds up to a grand total of $277,458.30, which, that hurts my soul a little bit knowing how expensive this was. I honestly at the start thought I could build it for $100,000, but that's just me. I am a little young and ignorant and maybe just a little too optimistic. But anyway, all said and done, I'm very happy with how things turned out. I think, like life, it's expensive, budget accordingly. I'm still working on paying off the last little bits of debt from this project, but like I said, it's my dream hangar. It's here to stay, and it's here on my dream property, so it's been a project and a goal of mine for a long time. Super fun one to get done and a super awesome one to bring you guys along for. For anyone that didn't follow along on the actual build, I'll put a link to the playlist of the entire build series for you to check out. And with that, I think I'm gonna wrap this one up here. Thank you again, Soylent, for sponsoring this one. Thank you guys for sticking around, and you guys know the drill. Like this video if you do, subscribe if you haven't, come be my wingman. See you on the next one. Peace. Accessible, affordable, and